I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna win, no doubt about it. Either I'm gonna win or I'm gonna die in the cage. One of the two is gonna happen.
Most people know Dustin Poirier as the guy who beat Conor McGregor twice, but what they don't know is where he came from. This was a kid kicked out of school at 14, locked up before he could drive, and fighting in the streets of Louisiana just to feel alive. Somehow, that same kid ended up headlining UFC arenas and building a multi-million-dollar legacy. But why is he known as the best fighter to never win the belt?
End up getting kicked out of school, started running with the wrong guys, hanging around with the wrong people, doing the wrong things, And, that got me into juvenile detention and court-ordered programs, boot camps, got arrested for truancy, and, they put me on probation and then all kind of stuff just kind of went from there.
At 17, Dustin walked into Gladiators Academy. The kid written off as a lost cause had found his calling. And from there, his journey as a legendary fighter began. But how does a high school dropout with zero experience turn raw street fighting into $1 million career? It all started on the amateur mats in 2007. Before stepping onto the WEC stage, Dustin had already built a reputation as one of the most dangerous up-and-comers on the regional circuit. He racked up 7 straight professional wins, finishing every single opponent by either knockout or submission.
After a big knockout in Canada at a big organization, I got picked up by the WEC and lost my first fight there by decision, and came back with a knockout. Found out the news that the UFC and WEC were merging. A couple weeks after that, my last WEC fight, I got a phone call to fill in for Jose Aldo as a last-minute replacement in a weight class that I never fought at, and I was ready, for that opportunity. Took it and beat up the #1 contender at the time, and really started making waves in the featherweight division.
That wasn't life-changing money yet, but it meant something bigger. Dustin belonged among the best. In May 2012, Dustin faced the Korean Zombie. He fought hard and even earned Fight of the Night, but suffered his first UFC loss via submission.
It's a big hit to me, man. This is my life,
And you weren't gonna tap, man. You're just gonna go get put out. You were like,
I don't know. I felt it closing, and then you just kind of stopped it. I don't think I was out.
And in round 2, you
was
do.
I out?
I think so, yeah. and what's it look like?
Afterward, Dustin moved in October 2012 to American Top Team. Suddenly, he was training alongside elite fighters every single day. He was able to elevate his game and get himself a few more wins before facing his nemesis for the first time ever. Their rivalry began in 2014 at UFC 178. Dustin was riding a 3-fight win streak, and Conor was quickly rising through the featherweight ranks. The tension between them was high, fueled by press conference trash talk and personal jabs. When the fight started, it didn't last long. Just under 2 minutes into the first round, Conor landed a clean left hand behind the ear that rocked Dustin. A few follow-up shots forced the referee to step in, ending the fight by TKO. It was a tough loss for Dustin, and one that stuck with him for years. But it also planted the seed for a redemption arc that would define the next chapter of his career. How does a fighter with one of the most stacked resumes in lightweight history, someone who's beaten champions, headlined massive events, and delivered countless Fight of the Night performances, still walk away without an undisputed belt? That's the cruel irony of Dustin's career. The undisputed gold always slipped through his fingers. His first shot at undisputed gold came in September 2019 against the undefeated Khabib at UFC 242. Dustin came in as the interim champion, riding the momentum of the biggest win streak of his career. For a brief moment in the third round, it looked like he might shock the world. But Khabib survived, turned the tide. Dustin found himself trapped in a rear naked choke. Just like that, the dream slipped away. 2 years later, in December 2021, he earned another shot, this time against Charles at UFC 269. Dustin started strong, hurting Charles early with his boxing. But in the third round, Charles took his back and finished the fight with a rear naked choke, the exact same ending as before. Then came the most recent and perhaps the most heartbreaking one, UFC 302 against Islam. Dustin fought his heart out. He survived the takedowns, kept the fight competitive, and pushed it into the 5th round, something very few had done against Islam. But in the final minutes, exhaustion and one brief opening gave Makhachev the chance to lock in a Darce choke. Dustin tapped, and the belt slipped away once again. 3 moments where the belt was within reach, and 3 submissions that tore the dream away. Even when the UFC title kept slipping through his fingers, Dustin was still winning in life. Outside the cage, he was building something far more lasting. Through business moves, charity work, and the constant support of his wife Jolie, he was creating a legacy that went beyond fighting. But behind every fighter who steps into the cage, there's someone holding it all together outside of it. For Dustin, That person is his wife, Jolie. They met as teenagers at Acadian Middle School in Lafayette and grew from high school sweethearts into lifelong partners. They married in 2009 and welcomed their daughter, Parker Noel, in 2016. Through every stage of Dustin's career, Jolie has been there. She stood by him during the early days when money was tight, through tough training camps, and during the toughest losses of his career. But her role wasn't just emotional support. Jolie became vice president of the Good Fight Foundation, helping turn Dustin's passion for giving back into real action. She also helped build their business ventures, from Dustin's Louisiana-style hot sauce to rare stash bourbon. While Dustin was building a legacy outside the cage, launching businesses, giving back, and growing as a man, there was still some unfinished business inside it, a rivalry that had never truly closed. The same man who knocked him out in 2014 would soon become the key to one of Dustin's biggest victories and his two biggest paydays. How did avenging one loss turn a high school dropout into a multi-millionaire businessman? 7 years after Conor knocked him out, the rematch was set.
My whole career has aligned me for tomorrow night, and I'm here to be victorious and get my hand raised by any means necessary. I'm leaving it all out there. Let's go.
The fight started fast. Conor came out firing, but this time, Dustin was prepared. He attacked Conor's lead leg with brutal calf kicks, slowing him down. In the second round, Dustin opened up with a sharp combination, dropping Conor to the canvas. A few follow-up shots sealed it. TKO victory.
The game plan was to not be heavy on my feet and throw power shots and box early. The game plan was to kick and wrestle and box, to mix it up and make it a mixed martial arts fight, to kick inside, to kick outside. Mike Brown was real big on me throwing calf kicks this fight. Really big on it. Really wanted me to, and it worked, man. You know, we compromised his leg, and he was in a bad position early.
According to some media sources, Dustin earned a base pay of $1 million for this fight, plus a $50,000 performance of the night bonus, and a cut of the pay-per-view revenue. Altogether, his total payout for the night was estimated to be over $1.7 million. Their final clash came at UFC 264 in July 2021. The build-up was heated, personal, and full of bad blood.
Tomorrow night, I'm gonna make this man pay with his life, and I mean it. You're dead in that octagon tomorrow night.
But once the fight began, it didn't take long for things to spiral. Dustin looked sharp early, landing clean shots and dominating on the ground. Then, just before the end of the first round, Conor stepped back and snapped his lower leg. The fight was immediately waved off. Officially, it went down as a doctor's stoppage TKO win for Dustin. Dustin earned a base pay of $1 million. But the real money came from pay-per-view. With over 1.6 million buys, his cut added another $3-4 million, making it the biggest payday of his career. After the revenge arc and the title fights, there was still one chapter left to write. One name from the very beginning of his UFC journey, Max Holloway. UFC 318 in New Orleans feels like the perfect closing chapter in Dustin's story. Across from him stands Max Holloway, the same fighter who welcomed him to the UFC more than a decade ago. Now, all these years later, Holloway helps write the final page of Dustin's career. This fight isn't about paychecks or headlines anymore. He chose to finish his career on his own terms, in his hometown, against a fellow warrior he deeply respects. Sometimes, the very struggles that almost break you become the foundation for everything you build. The angry teenager who once sat in juvenile detention walks away a champion in life, changing lives through fighting. If you're still watching this, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel so I can put out more content like this. Thanks for watching.
DP, knowing this is your last fight is bittersweet. You simply trained hard, showed up, and fought with all your heart. And that gave us some of the greatest fights in our sport's history. Dude, I don't know, I'm about to get emotional. Yeah, I want to keep these.